She's on her back, which decreases the blood supply to the child. Her legs are thrown up in a stirrup. She has no penis, so the Europeans call it a womb. I mean, you're coming out of real craziness. You're even naming your organs with these absurd names, you see. So the lady's in the stirrups, the father isn't there, all these strangers are there. I mean, they just punch in the morning and punch out. They have no spiritual connection to the child or the mother or the father. So they're bringing their spiritual force in here. And usually the black babies sometimes come out so fast that they drop them. They drop a lot of black kids in the hospital. The baby, comes out there, wham. Sometimes you just miss them and say, oh, damn, birth defect. Your fault. Kind of thing. The people that are birthing the child can't dance. They can't dance. You know white people can't dance. They can't dance, so they don't understand rhythm. And the baby's born in rhythm. This is really a negative vibration here. It really is. I'm not talking about just that. It gets compounded when you get into the psychological effect of seeing some milk in a bottle that's white. And here comes this white thing at you every time you're in pain, every time you're in distress, every time you need nourishment, every time you need protection, here comes this white thing at you. The subliminal kind of seduction into believing that white people can protect you, white people can take care of you from just this white bottle of milk. Oh, yeah. We have to go back and claim the rituals and ceremonies of our race. It may seem kind of stupid. You say, this doesn't make sense. Why should I have a home birth? I can't trust God. I better go to the white man. Dial 4191, whatever they dial. Because you know you can't trust God. You've been birthing children for 100,000 years without the white boy. He just crawled out of a cave and going to tell you he's the only one that knows how to help you. You're trying to get your placenta, you're going to get some problems in the European hospital because they use the placenta. These white women eat placenta, aside from using it for makeup and the hair and everything else. You've got to return the placenta back to the earth. That's the completion of the spirit. You have to do it. So they break us from doing that, which has been done for over 100,000 years in our culture, placental rituals, where you return the shell back that transported you here. You return it back to Mother Earth. So all of the spirituality is taken out of it. Being birthed by some people have no rhythm. They got on masks. And they smell. Oh yeah, you know they smell. Look at here. The babies triggers its pineal gland by smell. It puts it in its earth orbit. There are two ways the pineal gland is triggered at birth, by smell and by sound, because the baby smells its mother and hears its father, and that causes the earth spin of the pineal gland. Now the baby's coming out is going to smell a white person, triggering its pineal gland by look here. You're talking about a bonding disease. It's starting off wrong here, as you can see. Aside from that, we all know that the breast is a sex object. It has nothing to do with nourishment now. You know that. Nobody wants to use their breast except if it's across your heart, broad, Then people say, yeah, that's where the breasts go. They don't go in the child's mouth. Oh, yeah. We go from this rubber nipple, and from the rubber nipple we go to the liquid rubber nipple, which we call chewing gum, which is the extension of the rubber nipple. Because the people have miss the bonding, the nurturing. And that's why they got to chew the gum, because that's the extension of the rubber nipple. Oh, the white boy is playing a nice little game on you here. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Really. Oh, you don't think of it that way. But I'm telling you how this thing is architected, how this thing is put together. Now, you have this rubber nipple. Now, we know that the baby's taste buds are in the cheek, and they migrate to the tongue and the parotid later on. And that's why the nipple is that small and sits in the mouth, so that the taste buds in the cheek can be stimulated, which triggers the enzymatic reaction which digests the milk. But when you put the rubber nipple in the mouth, it bypasses the cheek. And each one of those glands triggers an organ inside of your body. What they're trying to do is stop the higher frequencies from being triggered. And they're doing it quite successfully. Oh, yeah. You have this bottle of milk, which, as you know, is nothing but cooked pus now, because it's blood anyway. That's right. And once you heat it up, it's nothing but pus. It's a liquid plastic. The only thing they use it for is glue, casein. They use it for paint and stuff like that, because it's casein. Maybe I shouldn't talk about the content of the milk, because some of us like ice cream, and some of us really think we're still from the ice age with the Europeans, eating ice cream, ice cubes, ice skating, ice skiing. Are you from Africa, really? I mean, we're locked into this European attachment to ice and don't even realize it. That's why they have ice cream and ice cubes and ice skating and ice hockey, because they come from the ice age. You're missing the whole thing. They feel at home. Oh, anyway, the baby is given this concoction. Well, we know it's based on the nutrition ratio of the white woman's breast milk, which is the lowest nutritional value of all breast milk in the world, which has a high protein content and high fat content, which reduces the sucking time on the nipple. And once you reduce the sucking time on the nipple, you reduce the bonding time. Bonding to your mother, bonding to your culture, bonding to Africa, you get it. The diet and the culture moves together. You can't move one without the other. So now we have reduced the sucking time on the nipple, which reduces the bonding time to the mother and the culture. We've reduced the ability to sensitize our pineal gland by smelling the mother, because we've been smelling white people first. Then we turn around and wonder what's wrong with each other. Well, I'm not going to get into the fact that I've been in the operating room many times, because I used to do that nursing stuff, assistant operations, cutting out the uterus, help hold somebody's foot while we cut it off, you know, that kind of stuff. And the white folks be farting in there. I mean, really, they be making little smellies. And I truly hope you weren't one of those black kids who was born with a smelly. But I question some of us, you know. Anyway, we're back to this whole abortion of our culture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're back to being culturally traumatized. We're into a cultural crisis. And all of this didn't start when we got into kindergarten. It started in the birthing process. It started from the very beginning. It started from being taken away from the rituals and ceremonies that center around our birth and center around our nursing process, which is the rites of passage, nursing ritual. Of course, we don't even get conceived under the right circumstances either. Most people are more concerned about the contract of a car, and they plan it and see how much money it's going to take, and, you know, how much the interest when it comes to planning a child. Oh, you pregnant? Oh, surprise. Don't plan that. That's a human life. So we're not even into spiritually connecting with each other here. We're still breeding like slaves, mind you. Masters say we have night. Masters say we have sex at night, because Master wants us to work during the day. And then we even play the music, and the slave said, nighttime's the right time to be the one you love. So, Master say we have sex at night. Master say we work during the day. Master say we only go to the toilet 3 times a day. Once in the morning, once during lunchtime, because Master say we can't pee all day. We're still on a very much of a slave schedule here. Despite the fact that we think we're so liberated and free, because now we can turn on, Martin and Okra, and watch Okra kiss her dog. I heard she kissed her dog on the telly, in the mouth, swapping spit with a dog. Talking about a love story. Well, let me be a little scientific here for a moment. I'm going to show you what happens when the chemicals, let me see, the knob here. Isn't that something? That's your nervous system. These are the chemicals that get inside of the nervous system, which we call TIQs in the technical kind of language. They block the reception of the nerves to receive impulses. They get inside here. Can I have a pencil or something there? Oh yeah, all right. I hope it's black ink, right?
No doubt.
Because it's a white pen, you know. Thank you, brother. I don't like that vibration on me. It took me a while before I could eat soup with a cracker. I'm not lying about that. I mean, the whole concept of having a cracker with my soup, I couldn't deal with it. It took me a while. I know y'all looking like weird, but racism takes effect on you. I could eat the soup, but not with crackers. I just couldn't deal with a cracker with me in soup. But in any case, these toxins get in the nerve ending right here and stop the full reception of the impulse and messages, you see. So the child is not able to carry the full message anymore because the nerves are kind of blocked, chemically blocked. In other words, a normal amount of stimulus they cannot carry. A normal amount of talking, a normal amount of looking in the eyes overstimulating. See, the rhythm has been thrown out of place here. So the child has lost the ability to track. That tracking thing you see on your VCR, your brain does this tracking. So the child's nervous system is blocked so they can't track like the brain works this way. Let me go back to square one. You have a brain stem, you have a cerebrum, and you have a cerebellum. You have the brain stem that has 12 melanin centers on them. You see, melanin centers on the brain stem. You have 12. The Europeans have 2. Your message, be it intellectual, spiritual, emotional, smell, sense, goes to the brain stem, and from there it goes to your brain. You see, your cerebellum and your cerebrum. One message goes to the left, and that same message crosses over and goes to the right. That's why you see out of your left eye and it's processed on the right side of your brain, because it's crossed. But before it's crossed, it goes directly to the brain. In African people, we have a midbrain that functions just like your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere. It functions as an independent brain by itself. And aside from that, it acts as a switchboard. Therefore, you can process information in your left hemisphere that belongs in your right hemisphere. You can crisscross and process left-minded thoughts in your right hemisphere and right-minded thoughts in your left hemisphere. That's in the African brain. Now, the European brain is not that well developed because they only have 2 melanin centers. Remember that. Remember that being able to think left-minded is an African thing, and right-minded is an African thing. The Europeans do not possess left-minded thinking ability. They can only mimic left-minded thinking. Left-minded thinking is only completed when it makes the cycle of time, lunar, solar, and galactical. It's a matter of time, a matter of rhythm, a matter of impulses. The cerebral spinal cord in your backbone, it goes all the way up to your brain, goes into these fluid cavities called ventricles, and makes a whole cycle and goes back down again. But when it goes up to your brain, it goes around something called your third eye, which is an electromagnetic force field that puts the thought on galaxy time. This is in African people. Nonetheless, if you look at anything that the European has done with his left mind, you'll see that it wasn't left-minded at all. A successful left-minded process is structuring an academic course, a school that helps a person define themselves and solve problems, which is the function of culture. A culture helps you define yourself, define reality, and solve problems. If it does not solve problems, it's not a culture. Now, the whole process of a school system is African. That's left-minded thinking. The process of calculus comes from Africa, geometry from Africa. This is left-minded thinking. Now go back and just look at anything that the Europeans have done with their left mind, and you'll find that it's always been destructive and didn't work. They create a balloon or something in the car, right? This is left-minded thinking. What does it do? Kill children, break your... This is their left-minded ability. Go back to anything they've done with their left mind and you'll see that it doesn't work. That's just an airbag. That's what I was trying to think of. I mean, anything. They put together some radiation to examine you, x-rays, and it creates cancer. Mammograms cause cancer of the uterus and breast. X-rays cause cancer of the uterus and breast. This is the European left mind. Go back to anything they've done with left mind. They created a ball of candy for children to suck on, and the children were swallowed and choked to death. This is their left mind. Some clown come up with the idea and said, hey, if I put a hole in it and they swallow it, they can still get air. That'll be a lifesaver. You can go through anything they've done with their left mind and you see it was a crash, unsuccessful flop. Because they are not left-minded people. They've run a big hype on you. Nonetheless, the regular nerve impulse gets blocked and the child can't receive the full message. This happens in the taste buds, this happens in the emotional system, so they're no longer able to process their food correctly because they cannot taste it anymore because you have cluttered up the nerve endings with the chemicals, the synthetic chemicals, the hormones in the beef, in the chicken, little girls sprouting breasts at 9 years old, getting into periods that last 5 days, 5 days or 7 days at 13, headed into a cyst or a fibroid tumor, guaranteed. All of this is going on because we put the chemicals in the nervous system, and they're blocking the message, blocking the ability of the immune system to function. That's the new buzzword, you know, the Europeans, the immune system. They just don't want to tell you melanin. That's all they're talking about. Let me just show you one of the people that's one of my concerns in this whole business here. This is the sugar demon. Notice that he's white. I like it. All right. Ugly, too. Now, we know that the white sugar destroys the nervous system and rots your teeth, and we know it does all of that. Let me give you some of the symptoms of sugar toxicity. What about this sugar in hyperactive children? What about it? Okay. This is what the sugar causes. Sneezing, year-round stuffiness, watery nose, rubbing your nose. Of course, we know the nose is related to the heart, so we know where they're headed to with that. And the large intestines. Aches in the muscles and head. And the children are not used to headaches. And they find that about 50 to 60% of children are having headaches, but they don't know what they're about. And they don't know how to describe it, so they're doing all these reactions when actually they have a headache. It should give them a couple of aspirin, I guess. Back, neck, growing pains. Growing pains, that's inhibiting the ability of the cells to function. Makes them stiff, and when they do breathe out, it causes pain. All of these are signs and symptoms of sugar toxicity, or eating white sugar. Even down to the ears, repeated formation of fluid behind the eardrums. You know, the ear infections. The red eyes, you call it. That comes from overworking the pancreas, and the eyes get red because the pancreas is not getting enough air, and the eyes are not getting enough air, so they get red eyes. And of course, the bedwetting. Daytime and nighttime. And in recorded history, the only people that have recipes for bedwetting has been the Europeans. They've been peeing on themselves for a long time. I saw one of them older white girls on TV. I don't know who it was, Power or whatever her name was. She pees on herself. That woman was talking about peeing on herself and made it sound like it was so fashionable. I have it depends. It depends on whether you're a Pismolian. Woman walking around peeing on herself. A Pismolian. Talking about a depends. How did her shame herself? I guess somebody got to wipe her little behind too. I know it's flat. You know it is. Flat behind, flat ass taste. That's what I say. Now, I'm showing you the non-clinical, non-scientific diagnosis for hyperactive or attention deficit disorder. There is no chemical test for it. You can test someone to find out whether they have iron deficiency or zinc deficiency, but you can't test someone for the lab study or of any sort to find out whether they have hyperactivity or attention deficit disorder. This is a social classification. Each test costs $5,000. This is a money maker. Now, as you can see, the aggressive behavior and the passive behavior indicate that you have hyperactive children and hypoactive children. In other words, this is a bipolar disease. It's sort of like manic and depression. It's sort of like low blood sugar and high blood sugar. It is a bipolar disease, and at any moment they may go into the other side of the disease. They can either go in the manic phase or the depressed phase, because the impression is made on the nervous system. In other words, you have alcoholics who have been, abstinent from alcohol for maybe 20 years, and they'll have what they call a dry drunk. For a minute there, they'll just get that feeling, they'll be just kind of drunk. Well, they have the same thing from the chemicals. They go through a phase of a sugar high without the sugar. The problem is that when the person, for instance, has what we call this impression of euphoria on the nervous system, they get the drug and the euphoria impression at the same time. They overdose on the same amount of the drug. So now you give them the sugar that makes them hyper, and then they're having a hyperactive reaction that's impressed on their nervous system at the same time. You've got some problems here. But nonetheless, are they behaving like Europeans, or are they reacting to being oppressed? If you do this to any animal, put them like a gorilla, a vegetarian gorilla, or monkey. You know, monkey is the white man's cousin. They said they came from the monkey. They did. I always offer them a banana and tell them point to a tree if it's true. Crackers. In any case, What happens when you confine the animal and put them in a state that's against their nature, against their culture? They're going to react this way. If you confine a gorilla and give him, what's that, a Burping King burger? What's that, Whopper Duper, Booper Booper? Whatever the Burger King eats, I don't trust him anyway because I think it's gay. But nonetheless, if you give a gorilla what this Burger King character eats and the milk, the gorilla will start masturbating and start having homosexual activity. Oh, yes. Now, we're giving the child these toxins and they're having these reactions. We're giving them first, we give them a junk culture. Then we're giving them junk food. Because you're not giving them their culture, you're giving them a junk culture, which is a mixture of African culture and European culture. It's not even a true culture. It's the culture of the Afro-peons, or the Negroes. I mean, it's really mixed up here. They celebrate Kwanzaa one day and get a Christmas present the next day. It's very confusing. In any case, they have angry outbursts because they don't know how to deal with their feelings. You have to teach your child how to deal with their feelings. You don't take the child to the store to shop with you. When you're shopping, you take the child to the store when you're not shopping to teach them how to behave in the store. First, you have to take them to the store when you're not shopping, several times. Then you take them to the store when you're shopping, but only go to the store when you and the child have eaten. Do not go to the store when you're hungry or when the child is hungry. Make sure you both have been fed because you know you both are junkies. And you're trying to control its behavior. If you take them to the store and they in between highs or sugar just got off a candy bar and they just trying to ease into a soda, you're going to have some problems here. Both of you should be well stuffed, whatever it is that you're slurping on when you go to these stores. Now, you see that this depressed moods that the child gets in, this is a nutrient deficiency caused by bleached white flour and white sugar. It'll make anyone depressed because it drains the body of B vitamins. You don't have any thiamine. You don't have any niacinamide, which controls the moods and that sort of thing. You're drained, so you're going to get depressed anyway. So what is happening is they are labeling nutritional deficiencies as hyperactive disease. So now they're making a nutritional problem a medical problem. And now instead of educating, they're going to medicate. Understand that you cannot change the school system because the school reflects the culture. You have to change the culture to change the school system. And you're not going to change the Europeans. The only people who can change the Europeans is the Europeans, because you don't know all their rituals and ceremonies. You barely understand why they put the fork and the knife and the spoon beside the plate. You think it has something to do with manners or something. Negro, please. They put the knife beside the plate to protect their food. They didn't trust each other. It had something to do with manners. That's how the instruments were introduced to them. First they had the knife, then they had the fork, then they had the spoon, because the spoon was the last device that they learned from Africa. They put it in the sequence of what they learned. The fork resembled the claws, because the European woman always was sexy if she had claws. And to show a sign of fertility is to put blood on your claws or put blood on your lip, which means you're ready to have sex. So the European women grow these claws. And black women go buy the claws and put them on, because they're trying to imitate the European ladies. And then they put the red stuff on their lips, which they used to use menstruation fluid years ago, because they used menstruation fluid to Christian ships. And then they switched to wine, and they're very high class now. But the symbology is still that. You didn't Christian a ship without menstruation fluid. They used to drink it for diseases and to keep away colds and things of that sort. It was part standard equipment of the Europeans' doctor's medical kit. That's why the Africans, when the doctor came, they were scared as hell. They didn't know what was going to go on, whether it was going to be menstruation fluid, whether they can get bled, because bleeding was done for all the illnesses. If you get a headache, they're going to slice part of your arm and have you bleed. Yeah. Or give you some rust. They used to use this, what they call tincture of steel. Soak some steel or some alcohol and give it to you as medicine. So when these little plantation doctors came to a slave to give him some medicine, they were really like, oh my God. you know. In any case, all of this is going on. The person's having a reaction to these chemicals, these synthetics. They're having reactions, and then they're being tortured by these reactions. And none of the diagnoses for hyperactive and attention deficit are medical. They're all social. It's a political classification more so of anything else. Now then, we do have things for it. I don't know if you can read this thing here. I do use a lot of glycine. Where's my little black pen? Yes. I use this one. I use glycine. That's good for, like you call, anti-anxiety. It tastes sweet, and you can take it out of the capsule and sprinkle it on the child's food and helps control the behavior. Sometimes you have to use up to 1,000 milligrams of glycine. And I do use taurine. Taurine is like an anticonvulsant. You know, like a person going to epileptic seizures. I would use taurine. And this stops that kind of jumping action of the nervous system. It's not a smooth action anymore. The nerves kind of jump along. I don't want to get too technical with that. And then I use phenylalanine, mostly for depression, mood swings, that sort of thing. This is what is used on hyperactive children on my side of the fence, nutritionally. We're going to use the glycine. Glutamine is used for craving, and it does repair damaged brain cells. And sometimes I use maybe 2,000 milligrams to take some people out of diabetic comas. It takes them right out of it. I give it to them under the tongue, coma's over. But mostly I use it to control craving. And nowadays, since I can't get a amino acid called tryptophan, I combine methionine with cysteine, and it makes tryptophan. But these are some of the nutrients that are used. Carnitine, of course, is used for the heart and heart disease and helps burn fat. You know, diet kind of control things. Lysine is used mostly for infections, and it helps rhythm. A person that lacks rhythm, I may spruce this up here and give them a lot of lysine. But these are the technical things in which these amino acids do. I'm just letting you know they have more than one function. But glutamine is known for its ability to help with memory. People that forget things a lot. Forget that they're from Africa and want to go to France on a vacation. See, as you can see, the taurine is an inhibitory neurotransmitter and works closely with GABA. GABA we use it for a child that gets out of control, can't control their behavior. GABA is used, GABA, that's how it's sold, gamma-aminobenzoic acid. But it's sold as GABA, GABA, and it's used for people who just can't control themselves. So I give them GABA. Well, there are ways to replenish the nervous system, mind you. And these are just some of the things. On the herbal side, I use a lot of feverfew and St. John's wort. I use a lot of those combined together, not singularly. I use St. John's wort, feverfew, because it strengthens the nerves. You know, maybe mix it with some catnip or chamomile. I use all three of those together, not singularly. I don't use these singularly. I use these together. Sometimes when I can't, if the child's, you know, some children are finicky about flavors, and if you try to put the medicine in something, they ain't going to take it because they can detect it pretty good. So sometimes I have to swing to a liquid melatonin because it tastes like syrup, and that goes in anything. Then you have to titrate the dosage and give some in the evening and some in the morning. I have to do this sometimes just so the child will stay off of Ritalin. Because their behavior is so, in school, the school's going to put the child on Ritalin, or the mother may lose her food stamps or her welfare, whatever they call it. And once the person's been on Ritalin, the military will not accept you. They do not accept people who've been on Ritalin. Because they think they need chemicals to control their behavior, so they don't want that. So anybody who's been on Ritalin can't enlist in the military, which is good for black people anyway. But nonetheless, you know, we have to do what we have to do. I understand that. Well, psychiatry has moved into defining a lot of the nutritional disorders amongst the children and adults. In 1963, African Americans kind of caught America with its pants down, and we did these race riots, or civil disobedience, I think they called it, which was actually a counterattack to me. We just counterattacked. But when that happened, there was about 2,000 or 3,000 psychologists in the school system, and then they brought in over 20,000 now, and they teach what we call outcome-based education. That's where your feelings are more important than telling the truth. It's built in what they call self-esteem. And they teach all of this psychology in school to alter and bend culture. That's what the people who founded it said. The purpose of psychology is to alter and bend culture. And so they brought this into the school system, and now they teach children that they can have a sexual alternative lifestyle. They can, you know, like be gay. And it's all right to explore your own sexuality, which is a nice way of saying masturbate. And now we have a lot of masturbation disorders in our community. You should know something is wrong, and you tell your little boy to go to the room, and he smiles. Something should go off in your brain, and maybe yeah, go in the room and play with something. Yeah, right. Thank you, Mommy. I just thought I'd have this here because a lot of people under the influence that they can run on concrete and asphalt. No. Dumb. The body is not built for it. There's too much pressure on the bones. That's why you have a lot of ankle injuries and bone injuries with athletes that play basketball, because they used to play on asphalt. And it damages the bones and the joints permanently. You shouldn't run and walk on asphalt or concrete. Find some dirt somewhere. Walk on that. Because it's going to damage the bone structure. And a lot of our children are just out there doing it on that. I'm just trying to make you aware, especially little girls that throws the uterus out of position. That little hopscotch on the concrete. You don't want to do that. But I know the concrete is easy to keep clean, so people use it a lot these days. But I just thought I'd show you how these people look. These junkies look once they get hooked. I mean, they're really sad. They're always stuffing something in their mouths. They're either using chewing gum or the soda pop or the candy bar or the potato chips or the pizza, or they're using the jelly sandwich, a pop fart, or whatever. They always got something stuffed in their mouth because these people are out of control. They're hooked. They're addicted, and you know it. It's very dangerous to be around these people when they don't have any food near them. Oh, what a sad scene. These people are known not to have many bowel movements. Some of them even fart a lot. But they're known to maybe have 2 or 3 bowel movements a week. And they have a rather, it's a smell you'll never forget. You can spray roses in there all you want, but it's so much funk, you know. And they use a lot of the right guards and the left guards, and they're using Dial 9 or Dial Soap or Dial 911, whatever they use, it's not going to stop the funk from coming out. They are very stinky. Their feet stink, their breath stink, their bodies stink. They use deodorant soap, they use foot eaters in their shoes. They are absolutely funky because the chemicals in their bodies are coming out. And your enzymes take away the deodorants from the chemicals, and then you smell the food for what it is, which is manure. And that's why they stink. They're nice people, but one should be rather leery of them if they haven't eaten something in a half an hour. These are the harmful effects of drugs. They bond to the melanin. They stop the melanin from working. They stop you from being black. They put caffeine in water now, and children get a buzz from this caffeinated water. They have so many chemicals in Diet Pepsi that it's used for birth control now. You take a dish with it and it kills sperm. They put in the Diet Pepsi in one end. It gets rather mixed up. I don't understand. But it's just that when you follow these people, you're going to have some problems. There's going to be a lot of gender confusion here because the high hormone level and children addicted to hormones, it causes gender confusion. That's when they don't know whether they are black or white or whatever Michael Jackass sings about, or whether they want to be a woman or a man, whatever Princess is puzzled about, I don't know. There's a lot of gender confusion marketed at our children with the Martin dressing up as a drag queen. And you know if a lady played that part, it would not be funny. And there are plenty of talented black actresses that could play that part as Shanae. But what makes Shanae funny is because Shanae is a homosexual. Oh, they market this to our children deliberately.
That's right.
And these chemicals now cause a person to be addicted to the food, addicted to the chemicals in the food, addicted to the hormones in the food, addicted to the rap song that goes with the food, and addicted to the colors of the food. Because foods have certain colors. The wrappers in the frozen food section for the vegetables look one way, for the French fries it looks one way, for the potato chips it looks one way. You go down the aisle. And Lord help you if you dress in the colors of McDonald's. You're going to make everyone hungry. Because it triggers these reactions. Seriously. And they know it makes it very addicting. Now what happens is, let me show you some of this sexual embedding before some of it is rather obvious. Now I've showed you this before because it's rather obvious. Now you know which one is the woman and which one is the man. You know which one is the woman. Jesus Christ. You know, some of y'all get really educated. I can't deal with this. Oh, boy. Okay, now I'm going to show you some hidden sexual embedding. Because sex sells the food. It sells it to the children. It sells it to the adults. This one was obvious. This one is not so obvious. This is a health food product, Vitacare. Excuse me. Now I'm going to cover up the part so you can see what they're trying to show. Oh, it's there. The visual impact of that is there. Oh, you don't see it? Oh, it looks innocent. It looks innocent. But it registers on your mind that way. Your involuntary mind receives this information. Your voluntary mind will throw it out and say, oh, it's just a commercial. But the involuntary brain will register it, and what's selling this product is sex. We call this sexual subliminal seduction, sexual embedding. This is what it is. And this is done by the health industry. Oh, you think that's interesting? Oh, okay. You know these phallic symbols, the buildings, the Empire State Building, all these buildings built as a phallic symbol. Why do you think they say